Hello, today we're going to be reviewing The Eye of the World, the first book in the Wheel of Time series. So this is the series that, of course, everyone has heard about. I've watched the Amazon show, but I've never actually read the book. So I've always heard about Wheel of Time, something that you should read, always on the recommended list, but I was a little daunted by just the sheer length of the series. Being so many books, do I really want to commit to a 14, 15 book series? I'm just reading The Lord of the Rings, 3 volumes is a lot. I'm struggling through Stormlight Archive right now. The 4th book, I breezed through the first 3, so kind of 4 hits my limit. So I was really apprehensive on digging into the Wheel of Time, even though it becomes so highly recommended. I had started the book years ago, never finished the actual book. I watched the Prime TV show, which, knowing little bits and pieces of the story, I thought was fine because I guess I didn't know what I was missing by not having read the source material. But I finally finished the first book after looking for my next read and in the mood for more fantasy. So I picked up The Eye of the World from my library and sped through the first audiobook in a week. And if you know any of the Wheel of Time series, they're pretty large books, 20 plus hours for every volume. And honestly, I could not put it down. It really hit what I was looking for in a book at the time, which was last week. I really was in the mood for a fantasy novel, a series where you just go on an adventure. And that was how I went into the story. I just went into it knowing that I'm going to be along for the ride. I'm not going to worry about the length. I know it's long. I know I'm struggling to read a chapter a week, it seems like, for Rhythm of War from the Stormlight Archive. But let me just be along for the ride. So I went into the book with that mindset that I'm just going to enjoy the journey, listen to the story, hear how the characters who I'm familiar with, having seen the show. So I know little bits and pieces. And of course, with this being the internet age, I've heard semi parts of the spoiler story. I know Rand is the Dragon Reborn, and that's obviously from the series too. So going into the first novel, The Eye of the World, I sort of know what's going to happen, but I don't know how it's going to happen other than the speed run, which I now understand is a speed run with the Amazon series. So first of all, overall, 5 out of 5, 10 out of 10 book. I really did enjoy the journey. My closest comparison is to The Fellowship of the Ring. And reading through some other reviews of the series, that's a common critique / inspiration that Jordan took to writing The Eye of the World, that the world of the Wheel of Time is inspired by Tolkien. And especially the first book, it hits a lot of those same beats. Just like the Fellowship of the Ring, we start off in a village. In Lord of the Rings, it was with the hobbits in Hobbiton. In The Eye of the World, you're in a small town meeting the locals, where seemingly untouched by these outside forces and figures that are battling around the world that we're just not exposed to with our naive village folk. So as we sort of understand the story and we're in the Two Rivers, and we kind of see what the characters were immediately thrust into action, similar to Lord of the Rings, where we get the attack on the village and things just start happening really fast. So a lot happens very quickly as we're eased into, but then thrown into the story. So the action does pick up right away. There is, action, things happening. And then similar to the Fellowship of the Ring, we're off on our journey, adventuring with the wizard who Gandalf in Lord of the Rings, and here it's the Aes Sedai. So we're on this journey with our mystical wizard who has some sort of powers, as we're the fish out of water characters on this fantasy adventure. But that's not a bad thing. That's the spoiler review. This is going to be spoilers because even myself, I knew a lot was happening. I figure everyone at least has an idea of the novel by now. It's been around for long enough that spoilers, I feel, are warranted to talk about. So go with the TV series as well. So talking a bit about the plot, overall, way better than the Amazon series, as we're talking about the Amazon series, which was, again, after having now read the book, I don't know how they crammed all that action and everything that happens into so few episodes. So in the book, I did enjoy just being with the characters. Robert Jordan's style is maybe more descriptive. It does take its time to get there. This is not a speed run. For the novel itself, we really understand the characters. We get to know them, and I felt way more connected to them having read the first book now than having watched the series. One interesting thing, talking about the series as well, is I don't remember any description of the characters in the book, really. So I remember back when the series first came on, because I started watching it, that there was some, critique about casting choices and ethnicities. But honestly, having just recently read the first book, The Eye of the World, I don't remember him making any explicit references to races or colors that much, overly maybe one or two descriptions. So there's plenty of descriptions. Jordan is famous kind of for his description of how the characters act, but skin color, hair color, things like that was not really a main point. So to me, I kind of had a different maybe picture in my mind of what the characters in the Wheel of Time look like. And it was not necessarily like they were in the series, but it wasn't as described in the book itself, if that makes sense. It's just what I conjured up in my mind that this group of characters would be like. So, that's all to say that I did get a great sense for the characters of who they are more as people, as this is a very people-driven story. It's all about the characters. And, there is the bit of a mystery. So, I did enjoy, learning as we learn through these characters about the wider world, and all these things are happening as we kind of go on this adventure from location to location, and stereotypically from tavern to tavern. We spent a lot of times in taverns. Tom, speaking of characters, was my absolute favorite character. I loved his character. He's the Glee Man. I guess we're talking a little about spoilers, but his death really hit me hard. I haven't heard much spoilers, past the first couple books. I'm not sure exactly what happens in later novels. I'm really hoping he comes back, because I just loved his fatherly figure to the boys. His whole character arc throughout the first novel was amazing. Definitely my favorite character. Second, of course, is going to be Rand. I loved learning about the world through Rand, seeing what's happening to him, the changes as he's learning about Aes Sedai and the One Power. Again, I haven't read the Wikipedia example about the Wheel of Time, so I don't know the full intricacies of the One Power, other than it's the male and female, and I don't know more spoilers than that. So I'm really excited to learn more about kind of the magic system and how that all works. We're giving glimpses of that in this first book, about channeling and how Rand somehow starts to channel. I was kind of reading other reviews that there are a lot of foreshadowing, so I sort of knew when something's happened, like the lightning strikes. I'd heard about that lightning was kind of like one of the powers. So when that happened, it was an amazing scene. But I definitely, even without knowing that it was possibly channeling, it's a little too convenient. And I think that's what you're supposed to get from the novel, that some of the things that happen to Rand are a little too convenient at times. So if, as we learn about that, there is this thing, the One Power, the Aes Sedai, so maybe it is that. So I think these are the hints that Jordan is dropping throughout the novel, and I love that. It wasn't, this big exposition of here's the magic system, here's how it works. Like, for example, if in another stereotypically fantasy novel where the elder sage is teaching the new person how it works, so we as readers are given that info dump of exactly how the magic system works. We're sort of learning through Rand, who is learning by stumbling at this point. There's no teacher figure that's showing him what channeling is. Nynaeve is sort of learning about channeling more in her character arc, but again, not really. So I'm really excited to learn more about the magic system, which I find really interesting, because we're not really told how it works. There's just that this power exists, and the Aes Sedai are able to draw from that power, but men aren't. So really cool there. Really love that. The main thing that I really enjoyed was simply the journey. It was an amazing journey, seeing the characters go from tavern to tavern, location to location, as we followed along the ride to make our way to the destination, We knew we had to get to the city. We knew we were on our way there. And of course, we're hit with some road bumps along the way. We get some battles here and there as we're slowly introduced to more and more of the world of the Wheel of Time. All in all, it was an amazing journey to get to the ending, which some critiques I've seen is that it's a little rushed, and I might have to agree, but also in the sense that it was rushed with a lot of foreshadowing. Towards the end of the novel, it does wrap up rather quickly, and I know that's one of the criticisms as well. We get to the Eye of the World suddenly that we should go there instead of our actual destination, so let's go on the wheel to see the Eye of the World at the end rather than make our way to the city. And here, the action does kind of wrap up very quickly, but at the same time, it's also giving us those peeks into the wider world, that there is a lot more going on here than we're first exposed to in the Eye of the World, at the Eye of the World. So when we get to the actual location of the Eye of the World, we're met with a very Tolkien-inspired creature, the Green Man, who's almost like an Ent slash a wizard who's protecting the Eye of the World. And then we're suddenly introduced to not Nazgul, not the Lord of the Rings, the servants of the Dark One. These characters, the villains, come and attack the party, and we have to fight them off. And it's sort of introduced without much foreshadowing, like the Nazgul in Lord of the Rings are kind of, we see them throughout the journey. We've never seen these not creatures, but servants of the Dark One. We've seen hints that the Dark One has an army, of course, as we're kind of introduced to his minions that are, of course, chasing the main parties throughout the story. But we finally meet the powered up direct servants who more than anything else, other than posing a challenge, reveals what's more to come. That we're at the Eye of the World, and there is a larger world. There is more conflict coming. Just because we made it out of the woods and into the main city, there's a lot more going on with the One Power. Rand, of course, has his first real channeling when he flies off and attacks another army, which you're left reading like, what just happened? And again, I think that's supposed to be you're a little bit unsure what's happening, because Rand, as we learning the story through his eyes, doesn't know what's happening either. So it gives us a taste of things to come, what this power maybe means. So it does set up for definitely a second novel. And having read this one, I am very excited to read the next one, because there's just so much left unanswered that I don't know, even myself, having read a decent number of spoilers, a bit of the Eye of the World. I really want to see what the next book, The Great Hunt, is all about, when we learn more about the One Power and everything that's happening to all the characters. So in conclusion, the Eye of the World was great. Don't let the Amazon series bring you down. Even though I thought it wasn't that bad because I didn't know the source material. The source material, as is often said, was way better than this adaptation. This is a clear 5 out of 5. Definitely want to watch this one again. Want to read this one again. I want to see the changes from the series to the book. Now that I know what happens, now that I know the characters more, I do kind of want to watch the series again and see just how bad it really is. But all in all, I highly recommend The Eye of the World, the first novel in the Wheel of Time series. 5 out of 5 for me. Thanks for watching.